Hey there and welcome back to episode 25 of Sims Sunday. My name is Pete and this is the series where we try to complete The Sims 3. Today's episode will be filled with completion. We are very close to maxing out the logic skill with Pete, which would allow us to tick off 2 lifetime wishes on our completionist checklist, and I think we can also complete the last skill challenge in the logic skill with Ayesha, which means we have then done everything there is to do in that skill. Before we get to that, however, let's jump right in. Pete's carpool has already arrived, but we're going to let him sleep just a tiny bit longer so that he can get the well-rested moodlet. Alright, here we are now at 6:40. Pete is well rested, now has the moodlet and can go to work, where he will work hard for another promotion. Up next, it's Paul who's awake. His school bus will arrive in less than an hour, and that means we have just enough time left to get a shower going. In the meantime, Ayesha is up as well, and she will continue to break the sinks outside. Then, for just a few moments, Paul can paint. He has the wish to do so, and that's some easy lifetime happiness points. Shortly after, his school bus arrives and Paul will leave. Because Paul is already an A student, he will slack off at school in order to get his fun bar up. Ayesha has now finished her first row of sinks. No success yet apart from the broken sink from the last episode. So now on to more pressing issues. Patrick needs his diaper changed and Ayesha can take care of that. Once that is done, let's get a quick skill learning session in for our youngest and have him learn how to walk. 3 hours later, Patrick is rapidly progressing and we can now put a stop to the learning session and give him something to eat. While he's filling his tummy, let's use the time with Ayesha effectively and have her grab the mail and pay the bills. Then we can put a very tired Paul back into his crib and get Ayesha working on the sinks again. Over at the military academy, Pete is already wrapping up his workday. 1000 simoleons and another promotion. Pete has reached level 9 of the military career now. As he becomes Top Gun, that means he's only 1 promotion away from reaching level 10, so 1 more day of work and we can mark the military career as complete. Speaking of completion, Pete will now not go home but travel to the library, where he can continue to work on his logic skill. And while he's on his way there, we can go into the town map and collect the money from the venues we own. As you can see, we are already making 5 figures from that, so our investments are slowly paying off, and now Pete has also successfully made it to the library and will begin his skill learning session. Then we can proceed with Paul, whose school day comes to an end. Despite slacking off all day, he is still an A student and now even has the wish to do some homework. At home, a display of destruction, or should I rather say success. Ayesha has managed to break 2 more sinks. That should certainly help with the plumber's skill challenge for Pete. In the meantime, Paul has made it home and he will now grab a bite to eat. And we can switch over to Pete, who has gotten comfortable in the library. Just a few more pages and we've finally reached level 10 of the logic skill. After lunch, Paul can make a quick phone call, inviting one of his friends over, but not for him to interact with, but for Ayesha, who can then tutor Domingo and work towards completing the last remaining skill challenge. And just a few moments before she starts her tutoring session, Ayesha breaks another sink. We now have 4 broken ones, so we're halfway through. Pete will now continue his book. In the last episode I said it was a drama book. I have to correct that. It is actually a humor novel. And then Domingo arrives and we can see he has aged up to a young adult, meaning we can no longer tutor him for his school performance. Over at the library we get visited by Death himself, not for Pete however, but it serves as a somewhat creepy reminder that Pete's time may be running out. Back at home, Ayesha has invited another one of Paul's friends over. Until she gets here, Ayesha can send a few gems away to be cut, and who knows, maybe we're lucky and she can also manage to break another sink. While we did not succeed at breaking another sink, Grace has now arrived and Ayesha can begin tutoring. And back over to the library we go. A stressed out Pete has finally made it to level 10 of the logic skill. In combination with level 10 of the handiness skill, this completes the Tinkerer lifetime wish, and because he has also maxed out the athletic skill, making this his third skill at level 10, we can now also check off the Renaissance Sim lifetime wish from our completionist list. And with those 2 lifetime wishes under his belt, Pete makes it home. He will now take a shower, and at the same time we can see that Paul has finished his book. From the description it seems like it's another success, and we managed to increase our weekly royalties by almost 500 simoleons. Paul will now go and take care of his homework, while Grace has to leave, so we're not quite there yet at the 20 hours of tutoring with Ayesha, but we gained about 6 hours with Grace, and that's certainly quite a lot. Ayesha can now focus again on her son and feed Patrick, then do a bit of cleanup inside, while Pete can get working on the first broken sink. Remember, while breaking them is hard enough, we also need to repair them and do the whole thing a total of 10 times to finally complete the plumber skill challenge. While Pete is doing the repairs, Ayesha can try to break stuff right next to him. I wonder how that must feel. But just a few seconds later, Pete already finishes the repairs on the first sink. As you can see, we now have 3 repaired plumbing objects, so 7 more to go and no time to waste. Back inside, Ayesha can now take care of Patrick, who once needed to go to the toilet, but now no longer has that need. Nonetheless, we can put him on the potty chair one more time, just to further increase his skill learning process. Then Paul completes his homework and the associated wish, and he will be the first one to go to bed. Ayesha can then give Patrick a new diaper, tickle him, and then put him back in his crib. It is a bit unfortunate that Patrick is on a completely different sleep schedule compared to the rest of the household, but I hope we can manage to regulate that slowly. For now, Ayesha can clean out the potty chair, and then also go to bed. Outside, Pete has moved on to sink number 3. The first 2 were repaired very quickly, but this one seems to take a lot of time. So with the repairs finally completed now, we will not have him tackle the 4th one as well. Instead, Pete can also go to bed and we can jump ahead to the next morning. And we start Tuesday morning with a happy message. It is Ayesha's birthday, so today she will age up to an elder as well. I have not planned to throw a party for her, or even buy a birthday cake, as that tends to distract everyone else as well. But we start the day with Paul, who can grab his breakfast from the fridge, and then we can have a quick look outside. As you can see, I have sold the sinks that Pete has already repaired, mainly because we don't need them any longer, and we can get at least a bit of cash back from selling. After breakfast, Paul will now go outside and paint until the school bus arrives. And while the bus honks to signal his arrival, Ayesha can once again begin her work with the sinks, and Paul can leave for school. Once again, he will slack off to increase his fun bar. After one row of sinks, Ayesha makes her way back to bed, where Pete is already waiting for her. With a maxed out fun bar, Ayesha can now grab some breakfast, and Pete can feed Patrick, before then going outside to repair the last remaining broken sink. Ayesha can clean up, and then Pete completes the repairs. That means we can now sell that sink as well, and put Ayesha in charge of breaking the remaining 4. Inside, Pete will hopefully finish potty training his son, and I would call that a success. The finished potty training of Patrick also fulfills a wish for Pete, so we are now 1000 lifetime happiness points richer. Pete can then put Patrick back in his crib and grab something to eat for himself. And after the potty chair is cleaned out, Pete can work from home, and that is also why we had Ayesha and Pete spend some quality time in the early morning, so that Pete won't stress out while he makes us a bit of money. Shortly after, we get an opportunity for Ayesha. There is no need and actually no possibility to increase our athletic skill anyway further, so no thank you. Over at school, Paul finishes another day of slacking off. That seems to have affected his grades not in the slightest. Back at home, Ayesha successfully breaks another sink, while Paul has also made it back and will now take a quick shower. He can then continue his painting. With a maxed out fun bar, I would also like him to start another book today, but as you can see, the computer is currently blocked by Pete. After a few more rounds of washing hands, just like the day before, Ayesha can now make a phone call and invite one of Paul's acquaintances from school over. Okay, because Paul has now almost finished his painting, we can already tell Pete to stop working from home. He decently increases our household funds and can now begin the repairs on the sink outside. In the meantime, we can sell Paul's painting and have him start another book. In the meantime, Laura has arrived, Pete has finished the repairs on the sink, and Ayesha can now begin tutoring for one more and hopefully the last time. And because Pete seems to be good at repairs, maybe he's also good at breaking stuff, we can at least have him try. We can also quickly sell the repaired sink, that gives us a tiny amount of money. And a while later, an unsuccessful while in terms of breaking another sink, Pete can go inside, wake up his son, and continue to teach Patrick how to walk. A bit over an hour later, Patrick is getting hungry again, and so is Paul, who will now make his way over to the fridge, while Pete can give the bottle to Patrick. And then we can check in with Ayesha. We made it! Finally. After 20 hours of tutoring children and teenagers, Ayesha completes the last remaining skill challenge in the logic skill, now effectively completing everything there is to do in that skill, and we can safely mark that off as completed. After a quick meal break, both Patrick and Paul get back to work, Paul with his book on the computer, and Patrick learning how to walk with Pete. And then one more time Ayesha steals the spotlight. It is her birthday, so let's say congratulations. Ayesha is now an elder, but thoughts of retirement are far away for her. We are still at the bottom of the medical career, and we definitely want to reach level 10 before Ayesha passes away. Inside of the house, another step of success. Patrick has learned the art of walking, and now only the talking is left. After Pete puts his successful son back into the crib, he himself can go to bed. He has an important day of work ahead of him tomorrow. And after a few more unsuccessful attempts at breaking the sink, Ayesha can join him. Paul and Patrick are the only ones that remain awake, and before he goes to sleep himself, Paul can quickly let Patrick out of the crib. Patrick can then make his way over to the potty chair, while Paul paints for a moment. Then he can put Patrick back and go to sleep. And with that we can make a cut in a very successful episode of Sim Sunday, and I hope we can continue in the same fashion next week. Pete's mastery of the military career is the one thing that's definitely on the schedule then, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. For now I can say thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!